In the era of excessive information and products, curated marketing is provided for consumers who cannot make decisions which products to buy. How satisfying is this? Global oil prices continue to fall. This is having a different impact on each country. Will Korea's economy gain more or lose more from falling global oil prices? Residential boiler that generates heat and electricity has been developed. How much power can it produce and how much heating costs can it save? Get rid of the set-top boxes that have only been occupying space. From speakers to payment devices, let's meet the advanced set-top boxes that are emerging as a hub of smart consumer electronics. North Korea is said to be more self-sufficient in supplying food now. But why is it still suffering from a chronic food shortage?
Hello, I'm Andrew Salmon and welcome to Bizline. Now, as consumers in a free market economy, we are constantly faced with a Shakespearean dilemma. To buy or not to buy? That is the question. Surrounded these days as we are with such an overabundance of both products and information, reaching an actual purchase decision is more complicated than ever before. As a result, a new marketing strategy has appeared, which involves recommending specific products for specific consumers tailored to their specific wants and needs. It's called curated marketing. So, how does this actually help the consumer to resolve this Hamlet syndrome? Let's take a look.
Amid the endless bombardment of new products and information, consumers are having difficulty making up their minds by themselves. And so, Curation Commerce is emerging as an alternative. This woman who loves to shop online has been regularly ordering a special box that is delivered to her each month. She gets a box filled with fashion items handpicked by industry experts. She uses the items in styling herself. She used to have trouble choosing her clothes and accessories, but the box has helped her narrow down her choices.
쇼핑을 할 때도 어떻게 하면은 제일 빠른 시간 안에 중간 이상의 상급의 물건을 살 수 있을지를 고민을 하게 되는데, 큐레이터라는 사람이 골라준 검증된 물건을 내가 살 수 있다는 일단 신뢰감이 있는 것 같고요. 그리고 다음 박스는 뭐가 나올지에 대한 기대감, 그런 것 때문에 바이박스를 이용하기 시작했는데, 이제 실제로 물건을 구매해서 보니까 되게 생각보다 퀄리티도 좋았고 가격 대비 되게 효율적이었다라는 생각이 들었던 것 같아요.
This woman is using Buy Box, which is a type of curation commerce. Customers will get a box of products selected through collaboration among experts in various areas and designers. Originally, curation referred to planning and organizing certain thematic exhibitions at art galleries or museums. Curation Commerce integrated such a concept with retail business. It is a service that recommends products selected by experts. If conventional social commerce focused more on prices, Curation Commerce can be seen as a slightly more evolved form of commerce because it customized quality products to consumers.
30인 정도의 큐레이터분들이 그들의 안목과 그다음에 그들의 스타일, 취향을 기반으로 제품들을 추천을 하고, 고객분들께서는 본인과 잘 맞는 큐레이터를 찾아서 그들이 추천하는 아이템들을 편하게 구매하실 수 있는 이런 형태로 운영을 하고 있고요.
The curated products are quite popular as trend-savvy consumers can access the products they cannot usually get at reasonable prices. As a result, sales are surging more than 30%. When a box is launched, it is sold out in just 2 to 3 days. The company continues to restock them.
바이박스의 다른 하나의 특색 중에 하나가 국내 신진 디자이너들의 제품들 많이 취급을 한다는 점인데, 그래서 이분들에게 해외에 나갈 수 있는 기회를 드리고, 당장은 중국에서 이미 판매를 시작을 하고 있고, 다른 국가들로도 확대를 해나갈 수 있습니다.
We live every day amid a flood of new products online and offline, and an information overload. Therefore, consumers have difficulty making decisions on which products to buy. We are suffering from a disorder of making decisions just like Hamlet. These Hamlet-type consumers tend to depend on experts or people around them to make decisions for them rather than making decisions themselves. Such mentality and actions are creating a new business sector. This is the main reason Curation Commerce has emerged.
이제는 기업이 일방적으로 우리 제품이 좋다 또는 이 제품이 어떻다라고 하는 것을 전적으로 믿지 않는다라는 거죠. 이제 소비자들이 굉장히 소비자 권익 증진도 좀 많이 하고 있는 움직임이고, 그다음에 일단 속지 않겠다. 이제 신뢰도에 있어서 본인들이 직접 좀 뭔가 하고 싶은데 그러기에는 시간과 가격과 뭐 이런 비용과 이런 것들이 너무 많이 들다 보니 전문가가 중간에서 무언가를 중재해 줬으면 좋겠다, 걸러줄 수 있었으면 좋겠다. 약간 이런 니즈도 좀 반영이 된 것 같습니다.
Recently, subscription services are emerging not only in the form of recommending products, but also in the form of delivering selected products to consumers. Consumers pay a set amount of money for a product box, which is regularly delivered to them. This service is steadily growing as industry experts pick and recommend practical and economical products.
일단 이게 화장품, 미용용품 관련된 박스로부터 시작이 되면서 그게 테스터로서만 그냥 사용하던 게 실제로 가격에도 내가 낸 비용보다 더 많은 혜택을 주다 보니 이게 가격 대비 뭐 시간 활용 대비 뭐 이런 것 대비 굉장히 큰 혜택을 누릴 수 있구나라는 걸 사람들이 체험하게 되면서 좀 급속도로 퍼져나가게 됩니다.
We visited one of these subscription commerce companies. Casa Bro launched a business to deliver fresh fruits to customers twice each month. Although it is a fruit company, you cannot even find an apple in Casa Bro's office. Discount marts or shopping malls buy fruits in advance and store them for a very long time. But this company only buys needed amount of fruits and delivers them right away, so consumers can get more fresh variety of fruits for a limited price.
정해진 양을 구매해서 거기에 맞게 이제 포장해서 보내드리는 방식이기 때문에 굉장히 신선한 상태에서 보내드릴 수가 있고, 사업자 입장에서 재고를 쌓을 필요가 없겠죠. 그러면 많은 소비자분들이 이런 큐레이션, 서브스크립션 커머스 형태로 농산물을 만약에 소비한다 그러면 지금 아마 유통이나 이런 과정에서 버려지게 되는 농산물의 상당 부분은 다시 우리가 효율적으로 사용할 수 있는 그렇게 시스템이 될 수 있고, 그렇다 보면 결국은 소비자들이 더 싼 가격에 농산물들을 드실 수 있게 되겠죠.
Now, every industrial sector is strengthening services further upgraded and suited for Hamlet-type consumers. There is an app that picks menus from countless delivery food for customers. Music streaming services that play music like a radio station rather than users choosing music one by one are also gaining large popularity. In terms of information, it is time to check quality and class more than quantity. Curated marketing that provides customized information is set to develop and expand infinitely for some time in the future.
지금은 그냥 하나의 물품, 예를 들면 미용 아니면 뭐 패션 이런 식으로 물품이나 그 카테고리에 한정이 되지만, 앞으로 이 큐레이션 커머스는 라이프스타일 총체적으로 라이프스타일 전반을 좀 다루게 될 것으로 보이거든요. 즉 박스를 하나 열었을 때 미용 제품만 있는 게 아니라 나의 삶의 패턴, 나의 라이프스타일에 맞는 제품군이 여러 개가 들어올 수 있는 거기 때문에 이건 확장 가능성이 무한하다고 생각합니다.
Curated marketing has come under the spotlight as the next generation online shopping trend. Shopping solution firms targeting consumers who are wandering in the sea of information are vying to become a front runner of the future retail industry.
With oil prices touching historic lows, one has to ask whether OPEC, the Organisation of Petroleum Exporting Countries, has lost the plot. But what does this mean for Korea? As a net energy importer and as a trade-dependent economy, low oil prices might look like a godsend. But are they, or will they be losers as well as winners? These are some of the questions we have for our guest today. He is a research fellow at the Asan Institute for Policy Studies here in Central Seoul. James Kim, welcome back to Bizline.
It's good to be back.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us. What a tremendous location. But anyway, tell us all about it. Has OPEC lost the plot? Why are oil prices right now so low?
There are about three factors that are at play here. If you think about the market supply and demand, two of them have to do with supply. So one is the rise in unconventional sources of oil and gas coming from North America.
So particularly the shale.
That's right, the so-called shale or tight oil, tight gas. Second is the declining demand or tapering demand from the economic slowdown in Europe, as well as some degree of slowdown that you see in China, parts of Asia as well. So you got those two factors, and add to that the third factor which you raised, which is OPEC deciding not to cut off its production and supply. So you got a situation where there is an abundance of supply and a tapering of demand, which is driving the prices down.
So do you see this then as a long-term or just a temporary trend?
Right. So that's a million-dollar question for everyone. And if I had the right answer to that,
you may be making money on oil futures.
I could do very well out there. But if you take a look at the energy price historically over time, it would not be wise to make any long-term predictions on these price, on the price of, for instance, crude oil, because the volatility is quite high. I mean, if you can just recall, about a year ago, the price of crude about a barrel is about $106 or so, coming down to about $46 within months. So it could always go the other way, as you saw in the past, for instance. So it's difficult to say whether this is a long-term trend, but if I had to put my money on it, this is a temporary thing. It's not going to be beyond a year at most.
Okay, so you're hedging a bit, but it's not going to last forever. In that case then, should Korea, which as we mentioned earlier is a trade-dependent, ergo a shipping-dependent economy, and also a net energy importer, sort of make hay while the sun shines? And is this really a boon for Korea, low energy prices?
So that's a very important question. I think what you probably want to say over time, and in the short run at least, this is a positive, is a net benefit, largely because it is an energy consuming economy more so than it is a producing economy. So in that sense, it's a good thing for South Korea. How much of a boon that is up to, it depends on how long this will last, and whether or not there are any kinds of negative impact that might come from this, which some economists are suggesting. Potential for deflationary spiral, right? So the value of the money ends up going up, and the prices of goods go down over time. That could potentially have a very negative impact if it's global in scope. So it's unclear exactly how much of a net benefit this is going to be, but the general consensus is that it's going to be a moderate benefit, about less than about 3% or 0.3%. 0.2% of total economy.
That's rather disappointing. One would think that Korea is shipping all these products, be they cars, consumer electronics, components, overseas. But are there also going to be certain strategic sectors in Korea? I'm thinking refining, petrochems, shipbuilding, which are going to suffer from this.
Right, so there's going to be some period of adjustment here, and already we're feeling some negative impacts in some of these sectors you point out, like refinery and petrochemicals. That's largely because the producers, the large sort of the oil companies, energy companies, are not making as much money as they used to from mining these goods. So they're turning to refining, to the refineries and petrochemicals. So the amount of increased competition in those sectors have tapered some of the demands for these goods and lowered the prices in some of those goods. And so the exports of refineries and refined goods products, and petrochemicals are obviously taking a hit in the short run. But it's not going to be all negative. For instance, on shipping, you're bound to see less orders coming in for floating LNGs or for drilling ships.
And presumably for super tankers, but these very, very high-tech, high-end products that are kind of the core competency of the big Korean players.
Right, but there's some, demand shifting in other areas in shipbuilding, for instance. There's now increased demand for LNG-powered ships. So some of those orders are coming in. LNG tankers, oil tankers. A lot of I think what you're seeing is a shifting demand in some other areas, and it's going to take some period of adjustment. But overall, you'll see in shipbuilding, for instance, I think that this could turn into a positive. But in refining and petrochemicals, you're right. There's some cause for concern there.
And obviously in things like shipping, tourism, travel, and most of the other exporting industries, this is pretty positive, is it not?
Right, because it lowers the cost in all of these things. So it's a win-win for everyone. It's great for the consumers and also for whatever service providers there are.
Are these benefits actually trickling down through the economy? I think consumers naturally would expect falling oil prices to be reflected at the gas stand, in electricity charges and other fees. I'm not sure if people are feeling that. Why is this trickle-down effect not transpiring? Or at least not yet.
Right. So the domestic energy market is a little bit different than the international energy market. So if we're talking at the pumps, for instance, and gas stations, if you take a look at the government figures for the average pump price for a liter of gasoline, it's come down somewhat from the beginning of the year up to about August, somewhere close to about 2,001 per liter. The average price has come down to about 1,571 or so. Most recent figures, the low figures that I've seen. This is on sort of the average gasoline price at the pumps across the nation. So that's about 20% drop. But as you know, the crude oil price has gone down even further. The margin is about 50%, $106 to about $47. Where did the 30% go, right? And
tell us,
you have to look at the price of the gasoline, what goes into that. It's not just the price of crude that impacts that. The government tax, for instance, impacts price. So out of the 1,501 or so that you're paying, about 970 or about 1,001 is all taxes. And the rest has to do with the amount of supply and demand and the price at which you're making these purchases and refining, among others.
Refining and distribution. Yeah,
right.
Sure. Okay.
So there are a lot of factors that go into play in explaining the market price at the consumer end. But better than before, I would argue, 20%. Who wins out on this? Consumers to some extent. The government obviously does increase tax revenue, so it's a good thing.
The government can't lose. Okay. Speaking of the government, how do you think? Let's take these one by one. How should the government, how should Korean companies, and how should Korean consumers react to this low oil price era, which we certainly are experiencing now? And as you say, it may go on for some months still to come.
Right.
How should they react?
Right. So the government needs to think about this very seriously and think about it in terms of policy implication. First thing, obviously, is what kind of implication this might have on taxation. And the U.S. government is thinking about this as well, potentially thinking about increasing the amount of gasoline taxes. Maybe the Korean government, even though we already have high tax, could potentially think about making some sort of gains on some of those revenues.
Relative to the lower prices.
Right. If they're concerned about...
That's a crafty ploy, isn't it? I mean, consumers are going to buy this?
Well, they've done it with cigarette, and why not for gasoline? Okay. So that's one potential area that they could think about. The other is in stockpiling. The price is good right now, and so why not think about expanding potential stockpiles in Korea for a rainy day. The third is what implication this might have for your green growth strategy and environmental policy. Now, this is about cheap fossil fuel. Green growth used to be very, very popular when fossil fuel used to be very expensive. Now it's a little different. And so how are you going to package your green growth strategy and pro-environmental policies in such way that the public is going to accept it? So these are areas in which the government might have to rethink or think about how to push forward
Yeah.
as the price sustains a low level, if it does. For businesses, I think it's kind of foolhardy to make long-term business investment decisions based on these figures, exactly because of the reasons I laid out before. The price is at one of the historic lows, but history suggests that prices can always shoot up unexpectedly because of the market volatility. But they still do need to think about what implication this has for their markets, what impact it has on the consumers and the demand. So these are some areas, like I said before, for instance, in shipbuilding. You don't want to keep hedging away and making investments on the floating LNGs if you're a heavy industries company. You probably want to turn your attention to those other areas where the demands are likely to go up, for instance, in tankers. So these are some adjustments that the businesses will have to make. And how they make those decisions will largely determine their performance and the sort of the new energy age. For the consumers, like yourself and mine and me, what we probably want to think about, I mean, first, enjoy what we have right now.
Get a new car and drive.
Maybe, but that sounds like quite a hefty investment to make. But I was thinking more of the sort of the savings that you get from your fuel price, the lower fuel price. You can try to think about making investments in those other areas that you've been thinking about. So for instance, maybe it's time to make that investment on that old house repair that you've been thinking about for the past 2-3 years. Or maybe you may be thinking about that savings account that you've always been thought about, right? Opening up. Maybe you want to open up that new savings account for 2-3 year CD or so. So these are things that the consumers might want to think about.
Could benefit the economy and raise consumer spend.
I think overall it's a win-win.
But will it? Because I mean, as we were saying on the last show, there's still seems to be a consensus opinion, particularly among policy formers in the media and in politics, that the economy is in crisis and consumers are just keeping their wallets shut. Does the Korean consumer believe in the benefits delivered by low oil prices?
Well, if you take a look at the structure of the Korean economy, as you already know, and you've stated earlier, most of the gains that we have and the engine behind the growth in Korea is exports. So yeah, domestic demand is important. You can't ignore it altogether. But overall, you have to worry about what this is going to look like in the sort of the global market and what implication it has for Korean exports. So overall, I think what you're going to see is probably an increase in demand in places like North America, which you can take some benefit or advantage of. In Asia, it would be somewhat tapered. What does this mean for Europe? We need to think about all of it.
I mean, let's finish with a global question. Let's look beyond Korean shores. I mean, clearly some energy-dependent economies, Russia and Venezuela, are facing virtual crises right now. Looking at the big global picture in the near and medium term, is this low oil price era a good thing for the global economy or not such a good thing?
Right. So I think I'm in agreement with the IMF on this, on the projections. Global growth, if you hold all else constant, at about 0.3 to 0.7% impact that the low price will have on the global economy. But you're definitely right. There's going to be some countries out there like Venezuela and Russia, which has suffered from what's so-called Dutch disease or resource curse, so to speak.
Dutch disease? I've never heard, sorry, the resource curse?
Right, so overdependence on
a resource.
On energy in particular, that has actually made you more vulnerable to these kinds of shocks. And these economies will suffer as a result. The question is, how long will OPEC continue with this trend? When will things change for the better for these countries? It's something that we have to wait and see. But overall, for the rest of the world, most of the world that's not really a producing world, it's going to be on net, I think, a positive.
Take that trip, ship those goods, and buy up those oil reserves. Sounds like good news for most of us. James, thanks very much for being on Bizline.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, always.
Countless photos that are scattered across smartphones, computers, and various social media sites. Is there a way to easily check and manage them? App of the week is Light, which gathers all the photos that exist online and on mobile. After signing up on the app, let's connect your smartphone, computer, and social networking service providers. Once they are synchronized, you can see all your photos in real time. The collected photos can be seen in line with the time and place they were taken. You can share memories with your family and friends, as you can also automatically see the photos you are tagged in, as well as your own photos. Now you don't have to spend extra time to organize your photos. You can see them easily in one place.
Every winter, people are chilled by the frigid weather, and then they're chilled once again when they receive their red-hot heating bills. As a result, new high-tech, low-energy boilers are becoming red-hot items. These include small, low-power water boilers, highly efficient boilers which burn fuel several times over, even boilers which generate electricity as well as heat. So, how do these boilers work, and how much money will they save you on your heating bills? Let's find out.
Power consumption has gone up sharply due to the cold snap. Electricity bills have become a heavy burden on households due to the rise in utility fees. Various innovations and new technologies are being explored for low-carbon, energy-saving, and stable supply options. One that grabs attention is a multifunctional home boiler that does not just supply hot water and heat, but also electricity. Home power-making boilers have been in use in the Netherlands and Britain since 2010. A Korean manufacturer of residential boilers became the world's fourth producer of a micro-combined heat and power, shortened as micro-CHP.
초소형 열병화 시스템이라는 것은 우리가 흔히 알고 있는 열병화 시스템하고 동일한 개념인데요. 그게 규모가 아주 작은 것으로서 가정에서 열과 전기를 동시에 만들어 쓰는 그런 시스템을 초소형 열병화 시스템이라고 하는 것입니다.
The micro-CHP unit looks like an ordinary wall-hung gas boiler. It has added Stirling Engine that can convert and regenerate electricity onto the typical condensing boiler system. The high-temperature gas generated through combustion process drives the Stirling Engine to make electricity, and the byproduct heat is used to make hot water and heating.
스털링 엔진 마이크로 CHP는 일반 가스 보일러와 달리 보일러 내부에 스털링 엔진이라는 외연기관이 들어가 있습니다. 그래서 가스가 공급이 되면 그 가스를 이용해서 엔진을 가동하게 되고요. 이때 전기가 발생하게 됩니다. 또한 전기를 생산하면서 생산되는 배열은 초고열 콘덴싱 가스 보일러 열교환기에서 열을 흡수해서 가정에서 필요한 난방이나 온수에 사용하게 됩니다.
A Stirling engine contains a piston in a cylinder. When helium or hydrogen gas is filled and heated by a burner, the piston moves up and down. Outside heat repeats heating and cooling, causing movement of contraction and expansion of air or gas, and generates energy.
스티링 엔진은 외부 열을 가하면은 안에 피스톤이 두 개가 있는데 한쪽에 위에서 한쪽에서 작동을 하고 그 피스톤 움직임에 따라서 가스 압력의 고저압이 이제 발생하면서 그 파워 피스톤이 그러니까 동력 피스톤이 작동을 하게 됩니다. 그 동력 피스톤이 움직이게 되면은 그 피스톤에서 나오는 어떤 동력을 그 외부 발전기, 선행 발전기를 장착을 해서 선행 발전기를 통해 가지고 60Hz에 220V에 전기가 발생하게 됩니다.
The Stirling engine has been around since the early 19th century as an alternative to the steam engine. But unlike internal combustion engines that make energy through hot air explosions, the external system makes much less noise, vibration, and toxic emissions.
스티링 엔진 발전기의 장점은 내연기관과 달리 외부에서 연소를 하기 때문에 뭐 고체 타입이든지 가스 타입이든지 액체 타입이든지 어떤 종류의 연료든지 사용할 수 있는 장점이 있습니다.
Can it make enough power to fuel a household? The power generating boiler yields 1 kilowatt per hour. Power is generated enough to run a refrigerator, 4 to 5 fluorescent tubes, an LCD TV, and a computer.
일반 가스 보일러에 비해서 스털링 엔진 마이크로 CHP가 가격이 많이 비싼 건 사실입니다. 하지만 이 스털링 엔진 마이크로 CHP가 일정 수량 이상 생산이 된다면 소비자 입장에서는 투자비를 갖다가 4, 5년 만에 뽑을 수 있는 가격으로 내려갈 수가 있습니다. 그래서 초기에 정부의 지원이 절실하고요. 소비자 입장에서는 이런 스털링 엔진 마이크로 CHP를 쓴다 그러면 연간 에너지 비용을 77만 원 정도 절감할 수 있어서 가정의 에너지 비용 절감에도 아주 크게 기여할 거로 생각이 되어집니다.
The system is also friendly on the environment as it emits 20 to 30% less carbon dioxide than typical gas boilers. The product, however, cannot reach ordinary homes because of its expensive cost. European countries therefore subsidize in installation fees to promote the use of power-generating boilers for energy conservation and environmental purposes.
전 세계 가스 보일러 시장 규모의 1위를 가지고 있는 영국 시장 같은 경우에 2025년까지 전체 가스 보일러 중에서 약 15%가 이런 전기 발전 보일러로 대체된다고 되어 있습니다. 대한민국은 전 세계에서 제2의 가스 보일러 시장 규모를 가지고 있습니다. 향후 우리나라도 이런 전기 발전 보일러의 보급에 많이 노력한다 그러면 전 세계적으로도 보급할 수 있는 그런 시장 전망은 아주 밝다고 할 수 있겠습니다.
Imagine having a power grid right at home that supplies all the necessary fuels to run a household. If the attention in the power-generating boiler that is currently centered in Europe catches up with the United States and Asia, the market could grow to as big as 25 trillion won worth in a decade. Our advanced boiler technology could pave the way.
Customarily, homes which received digital satellite broadcasting had a set-top box on or near their television set. But now, those set-top boxes are evolving. They're no longer simply about receiving signals. They have multiple functions, ranging from speakers to payment devices. As such, the old set-top box is becoming the new hub of home electronics.
In this era of convergence of broadcasting and telecommunications, set-top boxes are drawing attention as a hub to drive the age of smart consumer electronics. We introduce you to set-top boxes that are evolving in smart and different ways. Set-top boxes are devices that appropriately transform broadcast signals provided by pay broadcast platforms to enable TVs to receive them. Many households place set-top boxes below their TVs. Recently, set-top boxes are going one step further from their original function of receiving broadcasts. They are combining with various technologies and turning into new products.
한때는 말이죠. 디지털 TV가 발전함에 따라서 셋탑박스 기능을 완전히 흡수할 수도 있겠다 하는 접근을 했었어요. 특히 우리나라의 굴지의 업체들이 다 그랬습니다. TV 업체들이 셋탑박스 기능을 완전히 다 흡수를 해가지고 그냥 거기다 케이블만 끼면은 IPTV든 뭐 케이블 방송이든 나올 수 있게 그렇게 생각을 했는데 그게 안 되는 거예요. 그 케이블의 셋탑박스 기능이 날이 갈수록 자꾸 새로운 게 들어오더라는 거죠.
Without a home theater system, grand and vivid sounds resonate through the house. The secret is not in the TV, but in the set-top box. This set-top box, which is slightly longer than conventional set-top boxes with a width of 70 centimeters, has 4 speakers and 2 woofers inside. The 120-watt set-top box provides high-power sound that is more than 6 times that of standard 15 to 20-watt TVs, enabling users to listen to grand and vivid sounds at home as if they are in a movie theater or a concert hall.
일단 우퍼 셋탑 박스의 장점은 이제 기존에도 좀 영화나 이런 홈시어터를 좋아하시는 분들이 이제 집에서 TV에 연결해서 보실 때 좀 번거로웠거든요. 근데 그런 것들을 다 한데 모아가지고 지금 저 TVG 우퍼 같은 경우는 그냥 TV 밑에 쉽게 깔아서 뭐 아무 연결 없이 그냥 리모컨으로 TV 보듯이 사용을 하시면 기존 뭐 TV 사운드보다 훨씬 더 입체적이고 뭐 훌륭한 사운드를 즐기실 수 있다는 점이 특징인 것 같습니다.
In addition, it integrated a smart sound function that provides optimal sound modes such as movie, music, and sports by automatically recognizing the information of the program the viewer is watching. Equipped with a quad-core CPU, it offers 4K UHD level picture quality on top of its smart functions. The company's strategy is to catch the picture quality and sound with a single set-top box. Nowadays, set-top boxes also offer personal video recorder or PVR service that enables users to record and replay TV programs. Users can immediately record the TV program they are watching or set the time in advance to record a program. Through a smartphone application connected to the set-top box, they can freely record the programs outside the house.
그 녹화 서비스의 중요성은 크게 두 가지 측면으로 볼 수가 있습니다. 첫 번째는 녹화 콘텐츠에 대한 그 VOD를 쓰면서 이제 지불해야 될 비용을 지불하지 않아도 된다라는 측면의 장점이 하나가 있고요. 두 번째 이슈는 모든 콘텐츠가 다 VOD로 제공되지 않고 있습니다. 그렇기 때문에 그 고객이 원하는 콘텐츠를 이제 VOD 서비스로 제공받을 수 없는 경우에 이 녹화 서비스가 그 상당한 역할을 해서 고객들에게 이제 콘텐츠 소비를 이제 증가하게 해줄 거고요.
When a user changes the channel with a remote control, it changes immediately without a time lag. As picture quality improves and data increases, processing speed slows. By storing the data and operating system in a third server or a cloud, with the set-top box only accessing it, the set-top box can react simultaneously to remote control commands.
UHD 프리미엄 셋탑의 특징은 기본적으로 UHD 서비스가 되고 있고요. 그 다음에 두 번째 특징은 이제 클라우드 방식의 UI와 서비스가 제공한다는 데 있고, 세 번째는 채널 전환 속도가 매우 짧다는데 각 특징이 있다고 할 수 있습니다. 그 케이블 UHD 방송은 그 대역폭이 33Mbps에 그 60프레임, 그 다음에 10비트의 화질로 이제 고객께 서비스를 하고 있습니다.
Looking ahead, many view that set-top boxes will play a more crucial role when the era of the smart home comes and when all consumer electronics at home are connected to a network.
집 안에 들어가는 장치에 대해서는 예를 들자면 냉장고, 세탁기 등, 그다음에 히터 뭐 이런 것들을 다 묶어줘야 되는데, 그 데이터를 묶어주는 역할을 하는 것이 무엇이 될 것인가 한번 생각해 보면 어느 정도 통신 기능도 있고, 그 다음에 안에 컴퓨팅 파워, 그러니까 계산 기능도 있고, 이런 것들이 다 갖춰져 있는 장치가 뭔가 봤더니 바로 셋탑박스라는 거죠.
Companies are already showing such movements little by little. Last year, SK Broadband released a set-top box that integrated with a smart home device. The set-top box enabled real-time broadcasts and VOD services, high-resolution HD-level video calls, home monitoring, social networking services among family members, and the cloud service.
셋탑박스의 기능은 지금 우리가 생각하는 것보다 훨씬 더 발전할 걸로 보이고, 여전히 아주 중요한 장치로 쓸 거고, 앞에서 말씀드렸던 인터넷 오브 띵스, 사물통신, 스마트 홈 이런 기능들이 점점 더 거기에 수용이 돼서 아주 중요한 장치로 살아남을 걸로 그렇게 생각을 합니다.
Amid the race for better picture quality, sound, and speed, set-top boxes are evolving in a smarter way. We look forward to seeing what roles set-top boxes will play when the era of the Internet of Things genuinely arrives.
Since the mid-1990s, when North Korea suffered catastrophic famine, the country has been subject to a series of chronic food shortages. But nowadays, there are conflicting opinions about this issue. Some people believe the situation is actually improving, while others insist that in fact this problem will persist for years to come. So, who's correct? And what is the real situation surrounding North Korea's food supply?
According to Joseon Shinbo, a newspaper of North Korea-affiliated community in Japan, North Korea's food output reached 5.71 million tons last year, up 50,000 tons from 2013. Food conditions in North Korea were mostly estimated by foreign organizations. In a rare move, North Korea officially released data for food production.
이례적으로 지난해보다 오히려 증가했다 하는 이런 이야기를 했는데요. 이것은 자신감의 표출이라고 할 수도 있고, 또 김정은 정권의 정책이 성공적이다 하는 이런 이야기를 대내외적으로 일단 선전하는 이런 효과도 있다고 봅니다.
According to assessment by international organizations, North Korea's food conditions are improving every year. Mitigation in food shortage accelerated under the rule of Kim Jong-un. Experts attribute to good weather conditions that had been best since the country had suffered its worst ever famine in the 1990s. Changes in agricultural policy led by the young leaders, such as employment of advanced farming techniques and the introduction of incentive system, also contributed to better productivity.
식량 정산 원인은 제때에 유기질 비료를 사용했고, 또 잉여 생산물에 대해서 농민들의 판매권을 허용했고, 지난 10년 동안 국제기구나 한국의 NGO 단체들이 지속적으로 종자 개량을 한 것이 성과를 보는 등 이러한 세 가지가 주요 원인이 아닌가 생각합니다.
In his New Year's address, Kim Jong-un declared that he will not just solve the shortage problem, but raise the quality of food that goes on the dinner table. Does this mean that the country now has enough food supply to feed its 24 million people? Experts cannot agree. They even doubt if the 5.71 million output data North Korean authorities confidently made public can be entirely trusted.
571만 톤이라고 하는 숫자를 조금 우리가 정확하게 좀 이해할 필요가 있는데, 북한은 전통적으로 전곡으로 하지 않고 조곡, 겉곡, 그러니까 이제 쌀 같은 경우에 도정을 해야지 이제 먹을 수 있는데, 도정하기 전의 상태를 발표하기 때문에 우리가 이해하고 있는 숫자하고 상당히 차이가 있습니다. 그래서 571만 톤을 우리식으로 다시 환산을 해보면은 대개 한 100만 톤 정도를 빼면 되는데요. 그러니까 한 470만 톤 내외다, 이렇게 이해를 할 수 있죠.
North Korea officially says it needs about 5.4 million tons of food grain a year. By roughly considering 4.8 million tons can be edible, about 600,000 tons are still short to feed the entire North Korean people.
식탁이랑이며 사랑이 그래서 우리가 무슨 제가 먹는다는 것은 김치, 봄에는 김치, 그다음에 무슨 강지 반찬, 두부, 그다음에 무슨 대조거나 그래서 한 달에 한 번씩 먹는지, 그 삼겹살이라고 하잖아요. 그런 것을 게다가 한 달에 한 번 먹는 게 잘 먹어요.
The 5.4 million ton North Korea sets as optimal level for food supply hardly meets the nutrition standards required by the World Health Organization.
식량 부족 때문에 이제 굶어 죽어서는 안 되니까 적어도 이 정도는 확보돼야지 아주 최소한의 확보량이다, 이렇게 제시하는 선이 이제 뭐 하루 1일 기준 같으면 2130 칼로리의 한 75% 정도는 확보해야 된다, 이렇게 이제 보기 때문에 하루에 한 1600 킬로칼로리를 갖다가 공급하는 그런 가정하에서 계산하면은 540만 톤 정도가 됩니다.
Because the food guideline is set on minimum level to avoid starvation, it cannot be considered realistic. People still go hungry despite improvements in harvest. What's worse, what's been produced are not evenly distributed or properly supplied.
농장은 간부부터 시작해서 분저장, 작업반장, 평범한 농민까지 시작해서 다 훔쳐가는 거죠. 그뿐이겠어요? 군인들도 와서 그걸 다 잘라갈 거예요. 그렇게 가져가는 양이 많다는 거죠. 그렇게 가지다가 내 주머니에 채우고 있다가 시장에 나가잖아요. 그러면 결국은 국영 배급소로 들어갈 게 시장으로 나가기 때문에 공식적인 배급은 안 되지만 시장에 나오는 양 이런 거 놓고 볼 때는 적지는 않다는 소리죠. 그러면 왜 적게 먹는 사람이냐? 내가 돈이 없으니까 못 사는 거예요. 식량은 있는데.
Because food ration is rare, people must feed themselves by buying food on the marketplace. Although North Korea prides itself as a socialist society with an equal distribution system, the poor and weak are undernourished. The Hermit Kingdom, first of all, should improve ties with the international community and draw more food aid.
국제사회 지원은 최근에 많이 이제 줄어든 게 사실이죠. 그런 상황에서도 이제 부족량이 생긴다면은 이것은 결국 식량이 아주 골고루 이제 분배되지는 못하는 거니까 취약계층에게 이제 타격이 되죠. 특히 그 애들, 고아원이라든지 이런 취약자들은 좀 아주 어렵게 되고 국제사회가 만일에 북한에 지원한다면은 이들 계층에게 영양을 공급하는 것이 올바른 방향이다 이렇게 이야기를 하죠.
Domestically, North Korea should expand its incentive system that already has been proven to be effective in increasing farm productivity. Under the program, farmers are licensed to keep and sell yields beyond the state-set target.
중국이 지금 개혁개방할 때처럼 개인 농을 통해서 토지를 농장원들한테 임대해주고 거기서 농장원들이 알아서 생산을 하고 알아서 처분하게 만들어 주지 않으면 이건 절대 해결할 수가 없죠. 결국은 이것도 개혁개방하고 연결되어 있는 것이죠.
North Korea last year remained on the UN's list of low-income food deficit countries. Despite touted output, it still cannot feed its own people. If North Korea does not improve foreign relations, open up, and reform, whatever improvement in crop yields won't be enough this year as well.
And that's all we have time for on Bizline this week. But do join us again next week, because free gifts are now becoming a critical part of marketing. So much so, they may even decide the fate of the main product. But is there not a commercial contradiction in companies giving consumers free products? We'll find out next week. Moreover, Chinese IT companies like Huawei and Xiaomi are surging into global markets, and in so doing, they present a challenge to Korea's IT powerhouses. How should Korean companies position themselves relative to the China challenge? We'll find out next week. So, do join us then, but that's all for now. I'm Andrew Salmon. This was Bizline. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.